Good afternoon, and welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to our Stranded Forever modded Minecraft Let's Play series. So this room I'm in, this is something I was setting up, because today we are going to be getting into the mod Woot. It's something that I've mentioned before that I wanted to get into, but I wanted autocrafting first. So now we have autocrafting, and we can start jumping into the mod. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to set up some patterns, because we are going to want we're going to want some patterns for this. I can already tell you. So the first thing that I want to do, I think, is I want to teach it some recipes, like factory casings, under iron plates, under iron. So we'll go ahead and whoops, other terminal, my bad. We'll go ahead and teach you how to make this pulverized under iron. Oh wait, it gave me the hammer for some reason. And all this stuff. Alright, so we've taught how to make the pulverized under iron. And so let's go ahead, we're going to craft like 10. I don't think it's very intelligent, is it? It does consume the hammer. Oh my gosh. It's terrible. Oh man. Okay. Well, anyways, we've got our pulverized under iron, and so what I want to do, let me go grab, I'm going to grab one of these alloy smelters. And honestly, I think I'm just going to take it over here, because we need to start working on our auto processing a bit. For now, we're going to put it right up here. And we're going to go ahead and smelt up this pulverized under iron. This isn't enough to really get us going, but Woot is a fairly expensive mod to get going, I feel like, but it is very, very effective. And so the first thing that I want is the mob factory layout. Oh yeah, we're going to need factory casings, under iron plates. Ugh, this hammer breaking is terrible. I don't feel like it's supposed to do that. I'll go ahead and teach us how to make wood slabs, because we're going to need it if it's consuming all this stuff. It's fairly easy to craft. I'm going to try making one of these without automating it, because I want to say, because I really don't feel like that this is supposed to consume the hammer every time that you craft. And so let's try and handcraft this. The plate die, the under iron. Yeah. See, it doesn't consume that. There's no way I'm crafting that many hammers. I refuse. Okay, so auto crafting is off the table, it looks like. Anyways, we're going to want our mob factory layout. Will be our first item. We're going to need some of these factory casings. We're going to need casing die. And there we go. We'll get our factory casings. And now that we've got these, we can get our layout. Let's see. Just a piece of stone. And there we go. There's our mob factory layout. That's great. And the way this works, I'll pop over and show you. Basically, this is going to tell you pretty much how to lay out your multi-block structure for Woot. So, if we pop into here, what I've done is I've set up these three are max level. These are 11 by 11s. Basically, there's 4 different tiers with Woot. There's a 5 by 5, a 7 by 7, a 9 by 9, and then an 11 by 11. So I feel like the 11 by 11s we'll use for like important things, important creatures. Thinking Enderman, Wither, and I don't know, maybe. Ooh, I wonder if Ender Dragons. Well, I guess there's no Draconic Evolution, so I guess there's not that much importance to killing the Ender Dragon over and over again. We could make. I don't know. I don't know if it. I've never tried it with the Ender Dragon. It probably does work. Realistically, it probably does. But these other ones will do things like cows and rabbits and zombies and stuff like that. Stuff that's not quite as important, not as heavy use items. So anyways, let's go ahead. We're going to set this up. We'll set up our first one here. We're going to do a smaller one to start with. So what we'll do is we'll put our mob factory layout on top. Now keep in mind that this does need to be above the ground, because otherwise it's going to be, within the ground like any other. Any multi-block layout planner like that is going to be the same. You know, you'll notice that this is the shape of the multi-block. So let's go ahead and break that off. And you'll notice that there's a number of these red and black blocks. Let's see, there's 13 black ones and 14 red ones that we're going to need. So basically what those do, those colors are going to correspond to different blocks that we can craft. Now if you were to right click this mob factory layout, you'll notice that it upgrades. Here's a tier 2, which it's in the floor, but you know. There's a tier 3, and lastly there's a tier 4. Now the tier 4 does require nether shard or nether star shards, or whatever they're called. It does require those. So we're not going to be making a tier 4 today. By any stretch of the imagination, we're not going to be doing that. But anyways, what we're going to be doing is making just our tier 1 for now. And you'll notice there's some mob factory blocks, and they have different colors on them. So that's what we're going to be crafting. We need factory casings and rotten flesh for the red ones. So let's go ahead. We're going to need a bunch more factory casings. So give me a minute here. Should be able to get these crafted actually. And we need what, 14 of the mob factory red blocks. And then I believe it was 13 of the black. Or I guess it's gray, my bad. But we need a bunch of these. So we'll go ahead and lay out our red blocks, make sure that we have enough and all that good stuff. So we'll lay these out like in the slots here that are red. That's where they need to go. So, oops. Just like this. And nothing goes underneath the factory controller. So just keep that in mind. Can I can't reach between those. Okay. That's okay. I do have one gray block. There we go. There's our red. And so now we're going to need, what, 12 more gray blocks? We do need 12 more, so give me just a minute here. I'm going to get those crafted up. I just need more. I really just need a bunch more under iron. And by the way, this stuff is actually fairly cheap to craft if you're not losing all of your stuff. It is a bit cheaper because it just basically requires some nether bricks and you're done. So it's just whenever it's consuming the hammer every time, it's just like, God, that added cost, you know. And consuming the obsidian and all of that as well. It's no good. But anyways, and then in addition, before we head up there, let's go ahead and actually get our mob factory spawner grinder. You're going to need a few of these upgrades. There's a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. You're also going to need a factory casing and then 4 of these factory connectors. Now, these aren't terribly hard to craft. So just like that, and that's going to get you 9 of these factory connectors. I'm honestly, since I've got the stuff laid out right now, I'm going to go ahead and get like 63. Because we will use them, but you can get by with just one craft, you know, for the time being. So, anyway, that's that. And then these tier upgrades, they do require these quartz shards, as well as the emerald shards. We have diamond shards, so I'm not too worried about those. I've got quartz, so I'll just need some emerald. Grab a few of these. We'll grab these. Okay. You use that hammer a ton, by the way, just for the record. But anyways, let's go ahead and grab our tier 1 upgrade. Realistically, not terribly expensive for what you get out of this, in my opinion. So there is our mob factory spawner, grinder, and then we're also going to want a couple other things that we're going to have. First up is the mob controller. So this thing requires just 4 heads, one of these factory casings, some glass, fairly cheap. So we'll go ahead and grab that. Oh, no! Ah, why would it do my wither skeleton skulls first? Oh my gosh, okay. I spent a while grinding up wither skeleton skulls because we were going to get a nether spawner fairly soon, and no. Okay, cool. Anyways, so now I have one wither skeleton skull. Anyways, any kind of head will work for that. So just kind of keep that in mind. But anyways, it should have used my zombie heads, I would think. Anyhow, so now we've got our factory spawner and our controller. You're going to need these for any multi-block that you set up, regardless of the size or anything. Those are going to be standard. You're going to have those. Now, in addition, we're also going to want to get ourselves some of these capstones. We are going to need these factory caps. There we go. And iron-plated skull. Well, we'll actually do the capstones just a second. Let's go ahead and put this stuff up so that we have it down. And you'll notice, like this one, it's going to need 2 capstones. These white blocks here are capstones. So just kind of be careful because you can confuse these with white blocks. They're not. Those are capstones. And whenever you upgrade the size, you are going to have to remove the capstones, and the blocks will change slightly whenever you do that. So just kind of keep that in mind. But anyways, there's our flooring, our layout for this thing. And we know that capstones go there, so we're going to go ahead and just pull this up. We don't need it anymore. And down here, we need to put our mob controller. And we'll go ahead and get our iron-plated skulls. Oh, we actually only need 1 craft of that, so never mind. They make 2 at a time. So there's our iron-plated skulls. And then let's get, next up, we are going to need our capstones. So now we're all situated. There's our capstones. So let's go put this onto the multi-block. And then, I mean, for all practical purposes, the multi-block will be done. However, we're not done setting this up. So there's that. There's that. And actually, I'm sorry, it's backwards. The mob factory spawner grinder goes on the bottom. The controller goes on top. So there we go. And you'll notice if you right-click on it, tier 1, 2, 3, 4, it just says unprogrammed mob controller. So it means right now the mob controller doesn't have anything programmed into it. So it's not going to spawn mobs or anything. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and program it. This is actually fairly easy to do, I'll be honest with you. What we're going to want is one of these mob prisms. They're a little bit involved to craft. You're going to need this mob prism frame. We're going to need one of these prism dies. That gets us the mob prism frame. There we go. You'll notice you have a ton of these dies. There's so many of them. Alright, and there we go, finally. There's our mob prism. I had to round up all those dies. But you'll notice it says attack to capture a mob and use it on a controller to program. It is as simple as that. So, let's go out and get ourselves a mob. Alright, so we've got our mob prism, and so the next thing we need to do is we need to go hunt down a creature to actually put into the mob prism, put in the controller. Now, I will say that the different tiers of this, like this room, I'm probably going to have another Woot room on the other side, because like the tier 4, basically your tiers, they do control the amount of upgrades that you can have on there. So for example, if you look here, which we haven't got into upgrades just yet, but you have like raid upgrades and looting upgrades and so on. Now if you wanted to use looting 3, you would have to have at least a tier 3 controller to use that. But then in addition, the tier affects what can be spawned in there. So for example, a tier 1, I'm not going to be able to spawn anything too crazy in it. So, you know, I'm pretty much limited to more basic creatures. So for right now, I think I'm going to go with like a zombie spawner or a skeleton spawner, something like that. That's not, you know, it's not a high tiered mob. I think when I was testing the wither skeletons were tier 3, if I recall correctly, and I believe wither and stuff like that, Ender Dragon, would be tier 4. But so we'll go with there's some skeletons over here. So what you need to do to capture a creature is you just need to left click it with the mob prism, and it is going to trap that creature inside of it. So we're just going to kind of swoop in, smack him. You'll see it says mob skeleton programmed, Woot none skeleton. And you can see that it's a skeleton. It's a tier 1. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't use it on a tier 2 or tier 3. It just requires at least a tier 1. So, tier 1, not a problem. You know, as long as you have a valid multi-block, you have a tier 1. But some of the higher mobs, you know, you just need to keep that in mind. That it's not going to necessarily just be able to work unless you tier it up. Alright, so then what we can do is, let's go ahead, we're just going to right click our mob prism on the controller, and you'll notice it turns into a multi-block structure. It says skeleton requires tier 1, and it's spawning a skeleton, one mob every 320 ticks. It costs 51,200 RF at 160 RF per tick. The factory is running. You can sneak to see the upgrades and stuff like that. There is none though. And then what we can do is, if we wanted to get items out of this, we are going to have to run power to it. So let me get, let's see, where's our closest power line to that actually? Basically we're going to run our power up underneath this. So if we plug this in, you know, the conduits and stuff will connect on the bottom of this. So for right now, I'm just going to run the power back, because since we're right next to the tree farm room, we'll just use that power line, at least for the time being. We may, you know, once everything gets a bit more, I guess, established in that room, we'll probably change it up a little bit. But now that room should have power, and it does. You'll see it's building up. And now to get items out, we can either put just a chest next to the spawner grinder, and it will output items into that chest. And there's some bones and stuff. Now, this is going to just pretty much run, you know, constantly. Now, there is some upgrades that you can add, like rate, looting, there's XP, and mass. There's all these different, you know, different upgrades that you can add. And you're going to have to, if you want, say, if you want the different upgrades like the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and so on, or, you know, up to tier 3, you are going to have the previous tiers installed. But there are those upgrades. We're going to get more into those moving forward. We do have to get a bunch of enchanted books and all that stuff. So we will cover that a bit more. I may try to get the stuff set up for one of our tier 4s before next episode. We'll see. And we'll cover a little bit more Woot next episode, like the upgrades and stuff, but I know it's just about wrapping up point. This is just the core basics of Woot. Keep in mind, like I said, that mob factory layout does make your life a whole lot easier. Now, one thing you will note, if we were to set this down, I know I talked about it briefly a second ago, like these right here are the capstones, you know? But whenever you upgrade, you'll notice the capstones do change into red blocks. And now the yellow blocks are the capstones. And then if you upgrade it again, the yellow ones become orange. These cyan ones are your capstones. And you'll notice there's capstones on the front here now too. And if you upgrade it again, these green, like lime green ones, become the capstones. So if something happens and you set it up and it's not working, make sure you change out those capstones. So the tier 1 ones are really just for this one, and then you're going to move to a tier 2 capstone, a tier 3, and a tier 4. So, yeah. And like I said, I'm kind of sad that the auto-crafting, it doesn't really work as intended, but that's okay. I'm going to go make a bunch of under iron, tear up the nether a little bit, make a bunch of that. And next episode, like I said, we'll briefly probably cover the upgrades, and then we'll get into something else, I think. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button, and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already for more daily videos. Over the next couple episodes, I'm trying to come up with a design for producing mass dirt, because, you know, I'm trying to get back into questing, and I figured we may as well start. Oh, I need to light that up. That's where all the mobs are coming from. Oh, man. I want to start setting up something for Mass Dirt because I want to get back into questing on here and doing some of the quests and stuff. And I want to go ahead and get the dirt being produced because we're going to need that before we can actually do any of the additional, collector quests. And there is a really big one for Nether Stars, but I promise you once we get the Nether Star spawner up and going, Nether Stars are so easy to get. They're so easy to get with Woot. So, we'll probably get that set up maybe next episode. It's expensive. I will say that. That's really not that bad. But like the white blocks require Nether Star shards. To get those, yeah. So next episode we're probably going to kill the Wither and work on getting that Woot spawner up and going. I think I'm gonna have to go grind skulls again, but I do have a decapitation sword, a cleaver, so it does make things a bit easier. But anyways, that's the plan for next episode anyway. And then in the very near future, we're going to be working on dirt production, like mass dirt production. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already for more daily videos. And until next time, as always, do take care, stay safe, and I hope to see you guys then.